Welcome and thanks for joining. We're going to talk about Dior and Grosse jewelry this time. But just to give you a little background, if this is the first one that you've watched, my name is Julie Frances Irving and I have Courtney Del Nevo here with me. She does all the shooting and editing and does a fantastic job. The process that I go through to do this, I actually create a PowerPoint presentation just to get my thoughts in order. It usually just takes me a couple of hours, and maybe there's some, I want to make sure the information's accurate, so I go back and check dates and such. But then when we get here, I talk from the presentation, but I wanted to just give you the option to say, if you would like a copy of the presentation, put it in the messages section and I'll make sure that you get it. The only thing I'd ask you is, don't distribute it as if it's your work. I do the PowerPoint presentation, we do the shooting. It takes Courtney a couple of hours to do the editing, so there's work that we're both putting behind these, and I would like to get credit for doing that. The last one that we did was on signer jewelry, and I got a lot of nice comments on that. You continue to watch them and like them, and new people join, and that's a wonderful thing. But again, today we're going to talk about Christian Dior's jewelry. I don't think I need to do much of an in-depth discussion on who Christian Dior is, because clearly Dior is one of the most famous brand names in the world today. Christian Dior was a couture designer. His head designer was Yves Saint Laurent. You probably know that name as well. But it wasn't until 1947 that he started to do jewelry. So that's where we're going to pick things up from. And number one is a little bit of background on the Dior jewelry history. His jewelry was first licensed along with his new look, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But that was in 1948. So I want you to think about what was going on in the world in 1948, because it's relevant to the designs that he put out in his dresses and what he would have had to go with those designs. Very early, there's so much misinformation and mislabeling of Dior jewelry, and that's why I really wanted to spend some time on talking about it. Early Dior pieces were produced with poured glass elements, and there's nothing scientific about that. It's poured glass, but some of it was made by the House of Gripois, which was a Paris-based company. So that's the first thing. Not all poured glass is Gripois. And these very early pieces of Dior are mostly seen in exhibits in museums around the world. And I've been to a couple, so we'll talk about that too. But the majority of the jewelry in the 50s was designed by a German-based company called Henkel Grosse. So think about that. There were a lot of jewelry manufacturers who made for other companies, and that was the case with this. So Henkel Grosse in Germany made for Christian Dior in the 50s, and we'll talk about the markings that you'll see with that jewelry. I don't have a ton of the early Dior pieces. I have bought and sold so many Dior pieces over the years, but a lot of it has become very, very expensive. What I do have, and Courtney will attach to the back end of this, is a movie that I produced from a display that I saw at an exhibit in Berlin. So you'll get to see what some of these early pieces look like. But clearly, if I was laying these out, we're talking about pieces that are in the thousands and even tens of thousands. But at least you'll get to see some of them like I did in this one exhibit. You'll also see Christian Dior by Kramer. That's a big one, and we'll talk about that. And Christian Dior by Mitchel Maer. So let's take a look at this new look from Christian Dior. All right, we talked about Christian Dior with his line called the New Look, which is 1947, 1948. But it was so important in the world of couture because it was so successful that it wiped out a couple of other designers. And I wanted to show you some pictures of what that couture looked like that are from an exhibit that I went to at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. So I wish I could show you what this looked like because it was a gorgeous exhibit. Victoria and Albert do an amazing job on the exhibits that they do. So you walk in and you see all this there. What you're seeing, Courtney's showing you a few pictures of, is postcards that I picked up of like some of the favorite designs that I had. But this is the New Look. And the one that is the most iconic representing that period of time is this one. Now, you'll see it a lot in a lot of different advertisements. And she usually has on a big, wide-brimmed hat and, you know, high. Everything was matching, and everything was matching in the jewelry that he did initially. All right, I showed you some of the examples of the fashions that were shown at the Victoria and Albert exhibit in 2019, which I, had the pleasure to go see and was just in awe. I think I went back 2 days in a row. But I wanted to read you something from one of the exhibit postings that they had because it really sums things up. It says, from the delicate chokers of his first collection in 1947, Christian Dior saw costume jewelry as a key element of the total look. Dior costume jewelry was often created as a parure. Now, that's a necklace and matching earrings. It has to be like 4 pieces of it. Necklace, matching earrings, brooch, bracelet. That's called a parure. Working internationally with companies such as Mitchel Maer in London, which was very short-lived because he went out of business in 1956. Henkel and Grosse in Germany, and Schemama and Gripois in Paris. Dior presented dramatic pieces, often using strongly colored crystals. In 56, I didn't know this, in 56, Swarovski developed the Aurora Borealis stone with Christian Dior. I'd never heard that before. Inspiring him to produce both costume jewelry and couture featuring the iridescent crystal. And if you remember from the specialty stone video, I talked about Aurora Borealis and how it is a coating that's done on the crystals during the manufacturing process and gives a iridescent look to the rhinestone jewelry. So Courtney and I have tried many, many different ways to show you the marks, and it is so difficult to view them, especially with the amount there are related to Christian Dior. I have a hard time sometimes with the loop that I use, the heavy jeweler's loop, which we've talked about before. Even then, on a piece of jewelry, it can be very difficult to see it. So what we're going to show you is pictures. This will be in part of the presentation that I put together. But it's some of the different types that you'll see for Christian Dior. The first one is Dior, Germany, and it's actually got the date on the top. This one's 1971, and it's got the little copyright symbol on it. The one that I'm wearing, very simply, very simple one, is also marked Christian Dior, Germany, 1971. Anytime Christian Dior is marked Germany, that means that Grosse made it, because Christian Dior didn't have another manufacturing facility in Germany, so that was definitely Grosse. I think this one was gold, this one's silver. It says the same thing, Christian Dior, and it's abbreviated, CHR, and then Dior, which a lot of his jewelry is. This one was a silver one, and then it has Germany on the bottom. This one I want to spend a little time with, because here you've got a cartouche This is a beaded 3-strand necklace that I had from Christian Dior. It says Christian Dior there. On the S chain, it says Germany. All right, so what happened in the market is anybody who had a beaded necklace that had an S chain, even if it wasn't marked, they started saying it was Christian Dior, and that is not the case. This is just something that they would have purchased, just like any of the other components of jewelry. So, buyer beware. Just because it has an S chain does not mean it's Christian Dior. Here you have another one that is a tag off of it saying Christian Dior in Germany. Here is a paper tag. Here it's just embedded into a bracelet where it's a C and a D. So that's an example. Let me show you. There's a lot on this one because there's so many different marks related to Dior. This one will show you the marks used in Dior by Kramer. This says Christian Dior by Kramer. It will always say that. Is all Kramer jewelry Christian Dior? No. Is all Christian Dior done by Kramer? No. It's got to be marked Christian Dior by Kramer. And there's a couple of pretty good examples of it, I think. Mitchel Maer, like I told you, was very short-lived. He was an American costume jewelry designer, but he was living in England. He produced under his own name as well. And any pieces for Dior, and I've only had 2 Mitchel Maer pieces for Dior marked that way in my whole 40-year collecting costume jewelry. What I'm showing you here is Christian Dior by Mitchel Maer. Oh, look, there's the S chain again. Doesn't mean they all are. And then this one shows an example of what would be on a Mitchel Maer that is just his own line. So Kramer, Grosse, Mitchel Maer all had their own lines separate from Dior. And I think that that's another confusing thing that's out in the marketplace. Grosse did a lot of their own jewelry. And this is a very large example of something that's marked Grosse in Germany. I can't tell you how many times I'm seeing online offerings that have Grosse in Germany and automatically in the title become Christian Dior for Grosse, and it's just not true. And with the cost of these pieces, you need to know exactly what you're buying. So I hope this helps clarify things for you. I know I'm pretty passionate about it because I get really angry when people are, we all can make mistakes, but when it's blatant in what they're trying to do, then it upsets me. And let me give you an example. After all these years, right, of buying and selling. Now I go up to a place at Scott's Market in Atlanta. And this gentleman who was selling jewelry, costume jewelry, said, well, I have things on the table, but I have my really good things behind this in a box. And I said, well, let me see what you have. And so he pulled out a bracelet. That was a lovely bracelet. It was, nice. It was rhinestone. It was bracelet. And it was marked Kramer, New York. And he said, well, this is worth $500. Well, I know that's not, it's not even close to reality. So do I fault him? No, I don't. But I really don't like it when people are misrepresenting things and, trying to price things higher than they really should be. Here are this is number 3 we're on. We've done, we've gone through all the markings, and now we're talking about the jewelry and what it looks like. This is a tray full of some examples of Christian Dior. I hope that, you get an idea of what this looks like. Most of this is going to be from the 70s and the 80s. Some of it will be marked with the date, like we said. Some of this is from my own private collection that I keep and wear often. And some of it is up in my shop on Ruby Lane under Chapel Hill Vintage Jewels. But this is a lovely piece. Diamante crystal, colored. This one, like I said, I wear this a lot. It's got purple and blue, and it's just a big, chunky, fold over clasp, easy to wear. All of these pieces are signed Christian Dior. This one is one of my favorites, but I have a collection of hearts. So this one is just Christian Dior. Nothing else on there except a copyright date, which tells you it's probably 1960s, 70s piece, potentially. Lots of earrings out there. I think, it reminds me of what I talked about in Signer, that sometimes maybe you can't, this piece are going to be pretty pricey. But some of these, a little less detailed, even though they do have a stone in them, or looking a little newer pieces will be, something that you can do at the lower end of things, as are the earrings. There's a lot out there of earrings. They produced a lot. I'm showing you here one that's pierced and one that is a clip. And it's marked on the clip, Christian Dior. They're all marked. So that's another thing, I guess, we want to say is, like, if you are buying the earrings, they should be marked. All right, the last one that I want to show you for Grosse is for Dior, sorry, is this one. And this is from my own collection, one that I wear. I really like it. I bought this in a big international show in England. And I actually, on my last trip, which was just a week ago, I found in an old manufacturing warehouse this sign for Dior, which I love. But anyway, what I want to bring your attention to is this weave design, because we're going to see that in some other jewelry. And it's very much a design that I would have thought of as being related to Grosse. But I'll show you the next set of Grosse, and I'll show you why I think that. What we're looking at now is designs that were done by Grosse. That's Henkel Grosse from Germany. Some of these are from my own collection because I'll tell you, I love Grosse jewelry. I think that it is undervalued right now. I think Dior is overvalued, and you get a lot of opinions in these videos, but what amazes me about some of the things that they did is the workmanship and the way that they were able to manipulate the metal to give these three-dimensional designs to pieces like that and that. The twisting, the movement, you can imagine that's not an easy thing to do. And the other one is, like I said on that other Dior piece, is the weave work that is so typical of pieces that were done by, this one's upside down, my fault. Pieces that were done by Grosse. This is another one that's out of mine and one that I wear a lot. There were, they did pieces with a lot of rhinestones in them. But I think that the middle pieces, excuse me, from the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s are just as spectacular and very wearable. That's the other things. I mean, you can't always go out with this glitzy, drippy, big rhinestone pieces, but these you can throw over a sweater and it really adds to it. The other thing that's very typical of them, and absolutely my favorite that I wear a lot and get a lot of compliments on, is these pieces with, it's real turquoise, but it's called reconstituted turquoise. So what they're doing is they're taking pieces of turquoise and through the manufacturing process, pulling them together and making beads. And I believe the same thing is true of the lapis. So you see, these are faux rhinestones, but this is actually real turquoise. When I wear this piece, like at a jewelry show or something, I get people walking up to me asking me if they could buy it off of me. I love it too. It's really long. It's longer than this. And maybe that's another reason I kind of really like long jewelry. But to show you a couple of other pieces that they did, These would be the earrings and another necklace using that same stone and diamante crystal. And the other thing I want to show you while we're talking about it, where did it go? Under here, is really the only book that I know of that covers Grosse and Christian Dior jewelry. And I highly recommend it. I heard somebody was recommending it the other day. Now, I've had this book for a while, but they said it was out of print and it was now very expensive, and I'm not sure whether that's true or not, but it is the only one that I know of that covers Christian Dior and Grosse to this extent. So I want to show you this one. It has pictures, really beautiful photography through the whole thing. But this is one of the pieces using similar components, but actually integrating the curved metal. I love it. I've never found this one, but boy, I would really like to. All right, so this is a piece that I have in my own, and it's fabulous. Like we just talked about, their woven, braided, dangled on this one that Grosse did, but this is not marked on any of these pieces, and I don't know why. The one thing that I do have is this original box, which has the emblem for Grosse. And I'm just like pretty much 100% sure that this actually is a Grosse piece, but it's just unmarked. The two sets that you're seeing right here are both marked Christian Dior by Kramer. So these are a couple of examples from my own collection. This one, although it is signed, also has the paper tag. So I keep the paper tag just to keep it authentic and complete. This one with the red and green rhinestones is one that I wear at Christmas. And then the blue and the purple is just, what a beautiful combination. And that is also marked Christian Dior by Kramer. So here's two examples of the jewelry that was done for Dior by Kramer, which is Kramer of New York. And we also have a video on Kramer out there if you want to see. This one might be in there, I'm not sure, but give you a lot of background on Kramer in general. Also, one of my hands down favorite jewelry to collect myself is Kramer of New York. In the back of every one of the video presentations that Courtney puts up for us, you have resources. And this is if you'd like to do more research or more reading on your own. Now, people have said, well, I don't know how to do that. And, all you have to do is hit pause on the video and you can take a look at these and see if there's anything there that you'd like to get the resources for. So the first is the book that we talked about, which is this one. And then there's the one that I showed you that is from the Victoria and Albert Museum exhibit. And also, of course, my shop will have Dior, Grosse, so you can look at more jewelry. And there's also a very good article that I've given you here out on the web that is The History of Christian Dior Jewelry by Pam Wiggins, who wrote one of the Warner's catalog, Warman's books on costume jewelry in general, and that she wrote for Covell. She does a lot of articles for Covell and some other magazines, but it was a good one on the history of Christian Dior jewelry specifically. And then again, one other resource that I want to say is a generic one, but also related to this discussion because it has all the marks that you'd want to see on a database on the website for Costume Jewelry Collectors International. And that's true of all the marks. So you can go up there and you can just do a search on Dior or Grosse or, by the last letter of or the first letter of their names, and you'll find pictures of all of the markings for costume jewelry. So it's a really good resource in general. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoy this. Leave me messages. Like I said, if you want the presentation, give me a note with your email in the message section for YouTube, and I'll make sure you get it. Thanks. Bye-bye.